story about, unfortunately, somebody who just passed away recently, Kevin Sullivan. Uh, what a mind for the business, holy smokes! And really sad situation. But man, the impact he left on wrestling. It's just it'll continue on forever because of all the neat stuff that he was able to do and come up with creative ways to convey villains and baby faces and all that stuff.
Yeah, and he really had a mind for the business, which a lot of wrestlers don't necessarily. Some of the wrestlers are just talent, and that's all they want, and that's fine. But some of the other minds are in like booking and office skills, things like that. I was trying to think if there was a story I hadn't told about Kevin, because I've known him for 23 years. So that's a long time. And I'd imagine, that this would be a time to, where fans could probably see how the business is like a family, because you pick out two random dudes, RVD, Kevin Sullivan, and it's like, over the last 23 years, I can't imagine how many times I've seen the guy. Even though we haven't been together on TV that I could think of, we haven't been booked in that way where you would think of us together and different generations. That's how the business is. It's spread out, but then when you're in it for so long, you really are connected in a lot of ways, and you get to relate to, just like a family member, relate to each other. And I've told the story several times. I wrestled Kevin in Jamaica. I was there for my 21st birthday, coincidentally, on a wrestling tour. 2 matches. One was Kevin Sullivan and one was Mark Starr. Fuck Mark Starr. Hey, don't talk about the dead that way. There's another, we'll get to that. There's another thing I hear all the time, that like is not consistent with our ideology. Let me just say that. And I don't expect everyone to agree, but I'm always telling people, I have these values. And honestly, sometimes it makes me feel kind of pompous, and so I'm glad to get feedback that people appreciate it, because sometimes I feel like, who am I to, but I'm just sharing my beliefs and hoping it'll help people. I was doing an interview yesterday on, and I'll tell you guys about it before it airs. Total different channel than I normally would, but I was trying to explain how I have these. I'm going all over the place right now. Hold on, let me think about Kevin and where I was before I go somewhere and I can't find my way back.
I'll get you back on.
Okay, so anyway, I wrestled him in Jamaica. All right, here's what I was gonna say. You never hit a woman, no matter what. Really? I said that on the show yesterday, and the girls, it was like a sex channel kind of interview thing. She's like, so you think it's okay to hit women? And I'm like, I'm just saying there are no absolutes. Hypothetically, if she is stabbing me in the stomach with a knife repeatedly over and over, and she said, you can hit her. I said, okay, I'm just saying. And likewise, a lot of people say, you don't talk about the dead in a disrespectful manner. Why? If someone was an asshole, when they die, all of a sudden they're a hero? I don't get behind that logic. You want to say they're not here to defend themselves, I'll agree with that. If you're not looking to bring up a challenge that can be defended, and in fact, you're just stating a fact that happened, why should you be prohibited just because that's something you were taught when you were younger, before you reprogrammed yourself as an adult? So anyway, fuck Mark Starr. And Kevin Sullivan was a backstage office in a PCW in LA recently when I was there, when I lived there and was wrestling for PCW. And that was really cool. I'd see him every show. And he wasn't even part of the show. He was backstage. And I don't know what you would call that, if he was an agent or house dad. I don't know. But it was always cool to see him. What a life he had. And yeah, it's, I'm sorry to see him go. I remember last time I see him at cons all the time, and last time I saw him seems like it was only like 3 or 4 months ago somewhere. And I remember, like, I didn't realize he was sick. I realized he was looking a little different. But I was like, hey, man, cool, how you been? You know, he looked like he could unload on answering that question and trauma dump, you know, if I really wanted to know. You know, he kind of seemed like, you don't know, motherfucker, I'm dying, you know. And I was just like, oh, good to see you. You know, it was like a kind of like a really short thing where I had an idea something was going on. And of course, Andrew Anderson, if you don't know that guy, he's one of the most over non-stars that I know of, just because all the boys know him, and he's always been around. He's at all the cons. Him and Kevin Sullivan were so tight. They were always together. He's always with Greg Valentine. Those guys are really tight. And he's, you know, he's a indie wrestler, and I don't know his whole resume, but Andrew Anderson was really close with him, and he messaged me and said, hey, man, send Kevin some thoughts, please. He's not doing good or whatever. And, you know, I did. And then, you know, like a couple days later, maybe 2 days later, I got the news that he had passed. So, you know, we all have our path, and we're out, you know, it's never really seems like a good time unless you're suicidal. But otherwise, you know, it's usually a shame in this life to lose people, especially people we care about, because it's just so fucking definite as far as we know. And, you know, they don't come back. If you live another 40, 50, 60 years, they're not coming back. So, you know, what can you say? Condolences. And, you know, let's hope it's a while before we get news like that again.